We were talking in the last half hour, and somebody referenced that story about the fellow who killed the lion in Zimbabwe, formerly known when I was a kid as Rhodesia. And then they had a revolution, and the white minority lost control of the government, and the indigenous population took over the country. But they've had the same president now for about 40 years. He's on that dictator's diet. They just seem to live forever. They go on and on and on and on and on. So you have this dentist from Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's a big game hunter. He's been doing this for many, many years. Not unusual for people to practice that sort of sport. Ted Nugent, one that comes to mind. Nugent, by the way, has defended the doctor. 907, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 65, really warming up fast today. We were down into the 50s when we started just an hour ago, so we're on our way to 90 before it's all over with, at least 90, and then probably a few degrees beyond that today. You've got this guy, he goes over to Zimbabwe, he pays $55,000. I keep hearing the number 50 bandied about, but I think the accurate number is 55,000. As people are just rounding down a little bit. But he goes over there, pays this money, and then the story goes that they actually lure this protected lion out of a protected area, a national park where he happened to live. Now, my guess is lions don't necessarily say, aha, there's the boundary, I better not go out there. Lions, like any animals, they just wander around. They don't know about property lines and things like that, boundaries. It just doesn't matter to them. They go where there's food. The story goes that they tied a carcass of a dead animal to a truck to attract him, to bring him out, and then he was shot, and then he wandered for 40 hours before he died. They tracked him and they chopped off his head, skinned him and the like. But here's the thing. That story is coming from the two guys who were already arrested and have been charged in Zimbabwe. And these are two guys who live there. Now, they could well be saying this to sort of deflect some of the attention from themselves and maybe to help build their own defenses. Because the doctor says he certainly was not, he was not trying to lure an animal out, and he did not know that the animal was collared, although I heard on Sean Hannity yesterday from a veterinarian this collar was fairly obvious to see. But yet we don't know the full story because the doctor is in hiding somewhere, probably because he's worried about his own life. And judging by what I've read on the internet, things people have said about him, clearly he has a worry. But for all of those leftists who are threatening his life, they don't have any qualms about all of these Planned Parenthood videos where people are discussing the crushing of little baby skulls. Now that tells you something about the priorities of a lot of these pieces of protoplasm wandering around on the left. Since they seem to think that's what these quote fetuses are. We're talking babies, by the way. You're on the air with Bill Colley. It's coming up on 10 after 9. And welcome to News Radio 1310 KLIX.
Yeah, Bill, thanks for taking my call. It amazes me how people are in such an uproar over this story in Zimbabwe when actually they know nothing yet. The guy hasn't been to court. He hasn't broken any American laws, so I don't understand why the United States government is after him. If he broke any laws, it was in Zimbabwe. He had two guides that took him out on the hunt, that he hired to do it. He probably figured they were going to do it legal. So I don't understand this, but like you just said, people will lose their minds over this stupid lion. They got tricked, but yet they'll turn their heads. The little baby's being chopped up, ground up, and turned into mincemeat for nothing. This is the American way, I guess. This is nuts. That how people can go so crazy over this hunting thing. I hunt a lot myself. I go hunting every year. Some years I get something, some years I don't. I spend a lot of money doing it, but these people go crazy for this.
Because the lion looks like a big old stuffed toy. I thank you much for the call, and that gets their attention, it seems, more than anything else. And we do know one thing. If he's charged in this country, he can't be charged for taking it. First of all, the lions are not an endangered species in the United States. Secondly, it didn't happen in the United States. But he could face a bribery charge if it's determined that he knew what they were up to and that $55,000 or whatever the figure might be, so there are charges technically that he could face in the United States. Don't know if that'll ever happen, though. We have another caller joining us at coming up on 9:12:65. Bill Colley with you on Top Story, and so are you.
Good. I've been reading about this drought in the West, and the other day, a friend of mine who works, he literally lives in California part-time and works there. We were talking about the moral breakdown of California, and we were brought up God, and you wonder where God intervenes in the weather, or does nature does it just run its course? Does nature have free agency, free will? I don't know. But you say to yourself, when we turn away from God, do we suffer? Is this the reason why there is a drought? And then some people say, oh, you're crazy, you're nuts. It's, whatever, it's global warming, it's the sun, it's man-made. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I know that there's times the predominant religion, I live in Burley, the predominant religion over here will fast and pray, and it'll rain. So I don't know, Bill, but I know this, that you run the risk of turning away from God, that one day you will have to answer for your actions. And I'll hang up. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And again, I saw this today, and you may have already heard about this, but I'll share it again if you have. President Obama would veto legislation defunding Planned Parenthood amid accusations that the group profits from selling aborted fetal tissue. On balance, the president would not be supportive of any sort of congressional act like that, White House spokesman Josh Earnest said about congressional Republicans' desire to strip the organization's federal funding. Apparently, Republicans are just getting started in that effort, and that is an effort we oppose. That comes from the White House. Why would you oppose it after seeing these videos? No, Martin O'Malley even tried to play dumb saying, what videos, when he was questioned about it. Yeah, they're not talking about it in that sense. But if what we're talking about is just abominable activity, why would the President of the United States block an effort to stop it? Because these people, they are godless. I mean, this is how could anyone, these women bragging about how they'd like to buy a Lamborghini as they're negotiating prices over the body parts. It's just, you ask yourself from a standpoint of humanity, when did all of these people lose theirs? There was a writer by the name, I'd never heard of him before until yesterday, and somebody sent this my way. He's with a newspaper in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I happened to see something that he wrote. Christian Snyder. He's a columnist with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. I won't give you all of what he wrote, but I'll tell you what, this guy can write. And if the pen is mightier than the sword, this guy may have discovered the solution. He says, we all know that in abortion lexicon, a fetus cannot be considered a baby because ending a baby's life is far less palatable than saying terminating a fetus. Abortion advocates often denigrate human life by calling the child a clump of cells or an embryo. In fact, the entire abortion industry, he writes, coasts on a game of linguistics. In an article that forever euthanized satire, the New Republic called aborted babies products of conception, and said referring to baby parts was an attempt to anthropomorphize the human fetus. The term baby is medically incorrect as it doesn't apply until birth, said the article's author, Dr. Jen Gunter. The writer says, as a product of conception myself, I take offense. The most recent video released this week shows a physician sorting through baby organs, then haggling over prices, saying, quote, I think the per item works as a little better, just because we can see how much we can get out of it, unquote. Near the end of the video, one of these specimens is shown as a tiny hand is visible, having been torn from the rest of the baby's body. It is such butchery that makes the abortion culture's word game so necessary, the writer says. There's a reason it has deemed itself the pro-choice movement. Being against choice is simply un-American, right? Further, engage in any other dialogue about abortion and you will have to endure euphemisms like reproductive equity and women's health, as if ending a baby's life is akin to getting a mole removed. In Wisconsin, abortion is legal, but if someone kills the unborn child of a woman who plans to have the baby, that person is a murderer and eligible for the same penalty he or she would face if they had killed an adult. Thus, the question of whether the thing in a woman's womb is a baby or not rests solely on whether the mother identifies it as one. Our whole concept of existence hangs on a single word, he writes. If doctors are willing to call the organs harvested from unborn children brains and lungs and kidneys, they can't then deny that they are getting them from a baby. Harvesting human organs but then denying they come from a human is weapons-grade cognitive dissonance. To date, it appears abortion's biggest ally seems to have been Merriam-Webster. But given the videos the world has now seen, it has become impossible for abortion advocates to hide behind a dictionary. I think that guy's spot on. One of the best things I think I've read in years when it comes to any topic, and he has really made it clear. They are using the language to cover up this terrible, terrible crime. And the figures, since we probably don't have them all accurately, the figure that I hear oft quoted is now 55 to 60 million since Roe v. Wade. Who knows how many before that? 55 to 60 million. And then you probably can extrapolate that those numbers might even be low. So we could be talking, and you know why we are bringing so many immigrants into this country and there is so much demand for the, quote, cheap labor? Because 60 to 70 million babies were never born. They didn't grow up. Who knows? One of them may have actually grown up to cure cancer. But we'll never know because that person never lived. This is a crime against humanity. Not only against these little babies, it is a crime against humanity. And to sit there and defend, as the American left is doing, defending, President of the United States says he will veto any attempt to end the funding for Planned Parenthood. Other Democrats are now lining up saying the same thing. Barbara Boxer, a senator, U.S. senator from California, speaking of an immoral part of the planet, she has an op-ed piece in a newspaper today defending it. And they keep going back to make this lie more, how shall we put it, saleable to the public by saying edited videos. Folks, I was in television for a number of years, television news. All of those stories that you see that go on the air, they just don't turn on the camera and then it doesn't pop out of the camera at 2 minutes or 1 minute and 30 seconds or whatever length it has to be. It just doesn't, you have to edit it down and you have to get the best parts, your judgment on what that is. Here's the thing though, they have released edited videos, but each time they have released the raw video as a companion in their own defense. It doesn't change the story. They're that desperate on the left to continue this carnage, this massive homicide, this infanticide, that they will resort to any lie, any means possible to continue it. Are they that bloodthirsty on the American left that they can't face the facts on their own? There's a question. For all of you women in comfortable shoes who are listening today, before you burn in hell forever, which you will do if you don't repent, call me and defend this position, please.